There's some background you should have as you start approaching the various videos in this lesson. We're going to go through some of the experience and background you should have that will prepare you for success. On the command line, you should understand a few different things about using the command line. First, you should have some familiarity with using any kind of a text terminal. This could be the Terminal app on your Mac, it could be a DOS prompt on Windows, or maybe you've already used a Linux system before, in which case you've almost certainly seen a Linux command line. You should also know some really basic commands about moving around the system on the command line. This could be changing or creating new directories. Maybe you know how to download files. You should just have some experience with running commands. Some basic programming logic will also help you here. You should understand conditionals, like if statements or case statements. You should understand loops, such as for loops and while loops. You should understand variables and how to assign them. It doesn't really matter what language you know, as long as you have some familiarity with how programming languages work. You should conceptually understand some things about operating system. You should understand what a kernel is and what its role is in managing CPU, memory, and input-output devices. You should know that the kernel is responsible for handling device drivers as the interface between the user and the hardware. You should understand that the kernel has a scheduler that allows processes to have a certain amount of CPU time. You should understand that the kernel also assigns memory to processes as they start up and stop on the system. You should know that the kernel mounts and unmounts and manages file systems, which are on devices attached to computers. You should know that the kernel manages the network stack. It is responsible for communicating with the network and is your interface to other systems. Linux is a monolithic kernel. The definition of a monolithic kernel is one single program that contains all of the code necessary to perform every kernel-related task. Now, strictly speaking, very few operating systems are entirely monolithic. Usually things are broken up a little bit. But as a whole, Linux is certainly considered a monolithic kernel. If these concepts don't make sense to you, make sure you go back and learn about kernel and operating system basics. You should have some background in TCP/IP networking. You should know what protocols are part of the IP protocol suite, such as IP, TCP, UDP, and ICMP. You should understand some terms associated with those protocols. You should understand what dotted quad notation is. When you read an IP address such as 10.0.0.1, you should know what that means. You should understand the CIDR network notation format. You might also need to know what a subnet is and what a route is and how that is important on a Linux system. You should understand at a high level what the purpose of DNS is. Now, DNS is a really complex system, and you don't need to understand all of the ins and outs of it. But you should understand some basics, such as what a hostname is, what a DNS record is, what a DNS server's purpose is, and what a reverse DNS lookup is. So if you don't understand some things about TCP/IP networking, read an introduction on TCP because it will be useful throughout this series.